Something has happened. We were conducting our research as usual, and it's escaped. But it's not the same anymore. It's changed. Not evolved, but something else. I think it's mutated.
Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm the Thesterninator, and today we are tackling a very interesting gimmick, one that revolves around mutation. So the creator of this gimmick, this challenge, and this concept, Lava Tyrant, has put out a challenge to create mutated Pokemon forms. You can hear more about it in detail on their channel, which I'll have linked in the description. But the basic premise is taking a Pokemon with one or more evolutions and mutating it as though it had encountered this strange virus. This virus is known as the Savirus virus, and it causes Pokemon to mutate wildly, changing in both appearance and power. Now, I spent a long time trying to figure out what Pokemon that I wanted to incorporate into this challenge, whether it be something like Beartic that feels kind of overlooked, kind of like we did in our last video or a couple videos back where we evolved Pokemon that we felt deserved further evolution, but I instead wanted to tie it into a Pokemon that I felt already had this really weird and interesting quality to it. I decided that I wanted to tackle Dugtrio. Dugtrio, as you may know, is a Pokemon that is actually 3 Pokemon in one. And I thought, what an interesting design. What if, upon mutation, Dugtrio went from having 3 heads to forming a body? That's always kind of been the question with Dugtrio. What does its body look like? What is it hiding beneath the rock and rubble? So I didn't want to fully reveal that. I didn't want to go into thinking, okay, well, let's give it a body. Let's have it burst out of the ground. No, I wanted to expand on the elements that already existed with this Pokemon. That being that it is hidden in the ground. What if it did burst forth, but also kept that mystery? So I started drawing this chunk of earth that had been pulled from the ground and made into a kind of hive of this Dugtrio, and kind of allowed it to further manipulate the ground, further manipulate its body, and further clone itself. And as I got to that concept, I began to think about other inspirations that kind of led into this process. For example, there is this forest called the Pando Forest. The whole thing with this forest is that it's not actually a million different trees. It is a single tree that has cloned itself, all sharing a single root system. So this forest is actually a single tree. It just happens to look like many. And I thought that was so cool. What if I take that idea of cloning itself to look like many things and applied it to Dugtrio, who already has that quality to it? What if I took that a little bit further? I also play a lot of Legends of Runeterra, and there's a character in that game. I don't remember the name. Maybe you can let me know in the comments if you've ever played League of Legends or Legends of Runeterra, and let me know kind of who this character is. But there's a character who is like an armored soldier, very much like a boss monster, that its head is just hundreds of hands reaching out, very soul-like, very ghostly. And it's always been a design that I really, really liked. It was one that I've always been kind of pulled to. It pops up on the loading screen, and every time I see it, I consider myself lucky that I got the random load screen with this character in it. So I wanted to do the same type of thing with Dugtrio. This cluster of heads, and even the fingers of these newly formed hands are Dugtrio themselves. It gives off some Barbaracle vibes, which I think I'm okay with, because Barbaracle itself is also a forgotten Pokemon, at least in my understanding of it. And I thought, okay, if it's a forgotten Pokemon, I feel kind of okay drawing on that same type of inspiration. And I feel like I've moved far enough away from the concept that it still feels unique. I was very excited to draw these guys and doing little details. So you can see here, he has one hand kind of outstretched and reaching, and the fingers are formed of Dugtrio, whereas the other hand is like blasting into the ground and the fingers are bending back up, almost, again, looking like several Diglets. So it almost can hide itself under the ground, appearing as many Pokemon, but truly it is one Pokemon that has been mutated beyond recognition of its initial self. I don't know. It's just a cool concept that I was really excited. Once I thought about it a little bit, I went from being kind of, okay, let's just make something that's a mutation that kind of falls into the category of this challenge, into something that I was like, wow, this is awesome. I became very proud of this design, and I love it. Lava Tyrant, I think, is gonna love this design. It captures a lot of the kaiju-esque vibes, I think, without being explicitly a particular monster. If it were anything, I would say my favorite Toho kaiju would have to be Hidora. Not Ghidorah, not the multi-headed dragon, which I think you can see some inspiration there too with just multi-heads, but Hidora, a creature created out of pollution. It's very much a metaphor for what we as humans do to the ocean and how we just dump trash into it and what can become of that. And I wanted to incorporate that a little bit more, but the design was kind of taking shape on its own. So again, Hidora is created by pollution, and it is this amalgam of trash and refuse and just all sorts of gnarly stuff all pushed together into this multi-tentacled creature that kind of hides itself as a pile of trash. And as I was looking at that, looking at the Pando Forest, I started to kind of create something that I think ties those aspects into Diglett. I also wanted to include some Wiglet inspiration, or I should say Wiggler inspiration, from the latest games. So the Wiglet inspiration, I thought it's very interesting how in the new forms, it's able to elongate itself, and I thought, okay, that would be really cool to use for the arms. I thought for a little bit, should I have them be knotted up tentacle-like arms, or should I just have them be longer and simplified? And I went with the simplified version because Dugtrio is a fairly simple Pokemon. I think that when people talk about the new designs aren't anything, they're just too simple, that's just a tumbleweed, or that's just keys, I think people forget that Geodude was just a rock with arms. Dugtrio was just 3 guys on the ground. And so that I wanted to stick to that same simplicity. I didn't want to overcomplicate things, and I wanted to stick to the same aspects of Dugtrio that already exist and just expand on them. I didn't want to bring in too many new concepts. And one of the pieces of lore that I came up with for this guy here is that it does disguise itself as just your typical Dugtrio or as a Diglett. That's how it draws you in. That's how it makes you want to catch it. Simple Pokemon. I can come across this guy. I can catch it easy. I think anyone who's played the early games would remember Diglett Cave, which was kind of a nightmare of just running into this thing so often that it really lost any semblance of joy in catching it. So I wanted to kind of bring that back. What if you had all these Digletts and all these Dugtrios just roaming about this cave, but one or another might suddenly be something else, something terrifying, something mutated. And I really liked that idea. I liked the idea of taking this Pokemon that is so boring, and that's just me, it's so boring, and giving it this new life. So this is our mutated Dugtrio, or Dugtrio mutated. As you can see, it's quite a bit stronger than your average Dugtrio and very much taller than your average Dugtrio, standing at 11 feet 4 inches. I wanted it to feel like it was towering over the player, but the head base would still be about the same size as your average Dugtrio. Given its mutant qualities, I wanted to add that poison typing. I wanted it to feel like it was a plague. I mean, when you think of the concept of Pando, this Pando Forest that I keep bringing up, it feels almost scary, almost monstrous, very SCP, this tree that's just taken over this area and is all a single clone of itself. And I wanted to capture that off-putting energy. So it has all the same abilities, all the same hidden abilities, but it's just a lot bigger and a lot stronger. And yeah, I really was happy with this. I still am. I am happy with this design. And I think that it captures a lot of the things that I want to get across with this concept. But let me know. Don't forget to go find, like, comment, subscribe, not just this channel, but also Lava Tyrants as well. This is a really fun challenge. There's a lot of stuff on Instagram right now, people posting their inspiration and concepts for these challenges, and it's a ton of fun looking at these new gimmicks and what people are able to pull off with these ideas. It's insane how much that people can do, especially given what Game Freak has already given us. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe here and at Lava Tyrants channel. I'm going to go ahead and see you in the next one. And yeah, that's it. Bye.